Hi VC. Right, here we go. This is an entry to Vinyl Victims 100 subscribers contest. Well, I'm reaching 100 subscribers so quickly. It took me ages, but I'm fairly lackadaisical about these kind of things. I don't care, I just put these videos out there. Right, so it's no guess what album I'm going to be talking about. Here we go. For me, this album has just stayed with me over the last, how long is it since it was 28 years ago it was released? In 1989. So the album, of course, is Stone Roses' debut album. And I've been looking up some information on it, maybe remembering some stuff about it, and give you a rundown of the tracks and stuff. But Vinyl Victim asked for certain information about the album. I wrote it all down. There we go, on the back of some letter. So it's the Stone Roses, by the Stone Roses, released in '89. I think it was May '89. I got my copy a little bit later, but it is an original pressing from '89. I did buy it in '89. I think maybe bought it in the summer. Might even have been a Christmas present that year. I can't remember. Released on Silvertone, which I'll show the label when I show the record. Band members, of course, are Ian Brown, who was a singer, John Squire, guitarist, Manny, I can't remember it, Gary Mounfield, I think, but Manny, bass player, and Rennie, I can't remember his full name, who was the drummer. The producers were, the main producer was Ian Leckie, and apart from the song Don't Stop, which I'll talk about later, which was a Paul Schroeder Garage Flower production. Garage Flowers are Brown and Squire. The engineer was Paul Schroeder. Studio, it was recorded, it's two main sessions, well, long sessions, but two places it was mainly recorded at. One was Battery Studios, I think it's in Willesden, and the other was at Conch Studios, which is Ray Davis, it's basically the Kinks studio. And then they all retired to Rockfield Studios in Wales to mix the thing. No idea who it was mastered by. I have no idea. Don't know. The album art, right, let's get the record up. All of the Roses album art was by the guitarist John Squire. And a lot of it was inspired by Jackson Pollock and his drip paintings. Apparently this... Well, sure, I'll talk about this when I get to the song that this directly relates to. But the art was done by John Squire. All the songs were written by Ian Brown and John Squire, much to the annoyance, I think, of Manny and Rennie, who... I think there was a bit of a sticking point at one point in the history of the band when they signed a publishing deal, and basically it was Ian Brown and John Squire signed it as they were the main songwriters, and Manny and Rennie were just players, which is a bit of bit unbelievable, to be honest. But anyway, there's so many bands have done that, not least Morrissey and Marr. Anyway, right. The Stone Roses. I'm going to do a quick what it means to me, and then I'll go through track by track, and you'll get the track listing that way. Stone Roses first came up to my attention when I read a review of a gig at the Middlesex Polytechnic in February '89. So the review might have dragged into March '89. And it really pricked my interest. It was by Bob Stanley, and it just sounded like an amazing show. This was before, about the same time, well, it was before the album was released, and he mentioned in the in the review that there was a girl walking around, apparently, who used to follow the Roses around, who wore a denim jacket. Down one arm was scrawled Stone Roses, and down the other arm was scrawled the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Well, that got me hooked for a start. So on the strength of that review, I went down to my local record, well, not my local record shop. I went down to, there used to be a record shop in Wood Green Shopping City, and it was just along from the Boots, I think. It was on the second level of the shopping centre, on the same, just along from Boots, as I said. And they used to sell loads of stuff. I used to get stuff cheap and sell it off. It's where I bought my first Primal Scream 7-inch, actually. And they had this. So this is an original pressing of their 4th single, which is out same week as that review was written. And this is Made of Stone, another John Squire cover, with Going Down on the B-side. And this just... I just played this to death. This was just amazing. Didn't make a dent in the charts. They wouldn't until the release of their next single, which snuck into the top 40. But this was phenomenal. It was, to me, it was just glorious melodicism. You could almost hear the arrogance even in this one coming out off the record. It just seemed a completely different attitude to a lot of the indie bands that were around sort of late 80s, like the House of Love, Poppies. They were all just quite content recording their stuff and releasing it to, they still sell fairly respectable numbers, but they weren't out to conquer the world. Whereas this just struck me as completely differently. So, that was the first experience of them. There it is. And there's the Silvertone label. See that? There we go. Probably won't, I've now shown you that, I probably won't bother getting the actual record out. So fast forward a few months. Must have got it for Christmas present, I can't remember. But anyway, so then this was released in May. Didn't really get on the radio or anything. It's still got mixed reviews when it was released. I remember reading the reviews and thinking, I like the single, but maybe it's not I'll wait and see what happens. So I didn't get it when it was released. But, oh my goodness me. Now, people go on about perfect albums for them. This is perfection for me. This record is just, start to finish, not a note out of place, let alone a song out of place. I just think this is brilliant. Now, this is the original British pressing, so it has 11 tracks on it. It doesn't have Elephant Stone, and it doesn't have Fool's Gold, which were added to the US pressings, or later US pressings, and CD copies, which I have one. So you've got front cover, back cover, which is quite cool in shot. I think this was a shot taken from their first TV appearance on Granada TV in the north of England. So you've got, if I can see, there's John Squire, there's Ian Brown, there's Rennie on the drums, that's Manny, and this is Cressa, who was a dancer with them, much like Bez was with them with the Happy Mondays in their early days. And then on the inner cover, you've got a slew of shots from that session that's a fairly iconic picture of them. That's been all over the place. And then this one is called, this is another piece of art by John Squire, and it's called Waterfall, after another song on the album. And obviously we're talking about the Americanization of the UK which was a really common theme among indie bands in the 80s. Right, okay, get that back in. So here we go. Side 1, track 1. What a way to open an album. I Want to Be Adored. And it slowly rolls in on a wave of a rhythm. And then it just straight out the gates, it sets forth what the Roses were about. I Want to Be Adored. It is what they wanted to be, but not just adored. They wanted to take the world by the scruff of the neck and give it a good old shakedown from the sound of it. And it, just for me, it is one of the best opening songs on a record ever. The way it comes in, the way it just builds, and the intent, it just sets out their stall completely. Right, track 2, She Bangs the Drums. It's just a perfect pop song. Perfect guitar pop song. Just euphoric for me. Now, a lot was made that they didn't incorporate a lot of they were definitely into dance music, because apparently all they used to play when they were recording this was lots of house music tapes, and that's what they used to play backstage before they went on. But for me, although it's not out and out dance music, it's more the atmosphere that the feeling that you get from dance. It's like it's just so uplifting. They've got that kind of euphoria you get from a lot of these songs. So yeah, She Bangs the Drums is just perfect pop, and it just lifts me up every time I hear it. That moves into Waterfall, which is all about a girl who's leaving home. She's fed up of her home and going across, taking a ferry from Dover. And it's all about, there's lots of lyrics in there about, sorry about this, American viewers, this isn't necessarily my view, but lots of lyrics about sort of bad influences from the West and all that kind of thing. So you've got that. Then you've got Don't Stop, which, if I look at my little notes, Don't Stop came about because you've got we're listening to Waterfall on a 2-inch tape, and I think it worn through a bit, and you could hear the track running backwards when they played it, and they loved the sound of the reverse version of Waterfall. So what they did was they turned it all around, turned the tape around, recorded that as Don't Stop, and then whatever sounds Ian Brown was making backwards, John Squire came up with words that were kind of whatever the sound suggested became the words. So obviously Don't Stop, whatever, I don't know which part of Waterfall suggested Don't Stop, but that became the chorus. And it's kind of like a nice place to put it, because you've got the first 3 beautifully played songs, and then you've got this barrage of backwards guitar and everything, with these kind of like more scattergun lyrics, and it's just a good place to have it, because then afterwards you get Bye Bye Bad Man. And now I'll talk about the cover. Bye Bye Bad Man was inspired by Ian Brown and John Squire meeting a guy who said he was at the Spring '68 riots in Paris, and it's basically a call to arms. It's such an anti-authoritarian, anti-police song. Just it is a call to arms, and the cover art comes from 2 places. So we've got a John Squire original, which was inspired by the Giant's Causeway. So this part, the backing is inspired by the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. and part of it in Scotland. To that he added the tricolour. There we go, tricolour over here. And then the reason why the oranges were they were nailed on, because this was photographed against the wall. So they put the painting on the wall and nailed these oranges. Now the reason why that is, not oranges, lemons. The reason they nailed these lemons to the painting is because apparently in '68, to combat the effects of tear gas, the students or whoever was writing used to either suck the lemon or squirt the juice in the air, and apparently it has a negative effect on tear gas. So that's why they've got the lemons on there, and why this lemon became a symbol of the roses. So there we go. So yeah, just call to insurrection. Right, so that was the end of side one. Side two opened with a short little minute-long track called Elizabeth My Dear, and it basically is an anti-royal song, based on Scarborough Fair. Just a short one-verse song about basically dreaming of the end of the monarchy. And I remember it causing all kinds of... did it get into Parliament? I can't remember now. But basically, during the instrumental set, instrumental half of that song, you can distinctly hear a gunshot, like with a silencer on it. So yeah, there you go. There's the intent. Right. So that moves. So after that, you move on to. I mean, talk about difference in attitude to like House of Love and stuff. Much as I love them, I mean, we're talking different league here. Then you got Song for My Sugar Spun Sister, which is beautiful. I mean, I played this again yesterday. I play this pretty regularly, but I played it again yesterday, and I was breaking down. It was just like, oh my god, this is just so fantastic. I mean, my favourite songs on here, it just changes all the time. Sometimes it's She Bangs a Drum, sometimes it's Waterfall, could be by the Bad Man. I just think I can break it down into the songs. As a whole, it's brilliant, and each individual song is brilliant. Then you've got Made of Stone, which was my introduction to them. Then you've got Shoot You Down, which is just another brilliant song. More kind of, and this is the one. They're kind of more. This is the one especially. I think it's John Squire playing on his Hendrix Infatuation a bit, and then it goes into just one of the greatest the greatest album closers ever. It's just amazing. I Am the Resurrection, and there, more statement of intent. Apparently, this took form from possibly what seems to be the most influential bass line, more than that Queen one or the Chic one. Well, you know the one I'm talking about. Dum dum dum. That one is the Taxman bass riff, because that pops up everywhere. I'm just lose count of where that one's popped up. But anyway, so it's Manny noodling about with the Taxman riff and reversing it, and then John Squire used to sort of play guitar over the top, and it over a period of time it became I Am the Resurrection, which is just one of the funkiest British indie tracks I've, it's just one of the tracks of one of my favourite tracks. The way the lyrics are just so spiky. I mean, it doesn't really do it justice. They literally, some of the nastiest lyrics. It's like talking about someone. I think it's lyrics are about a critic who wrote about them or something, and just takes without naming anybody, or takes them to task. And then the music, it's when Manny and Rennie really let go on the rhythm section. I mean, they should have got a co-writing credit, or at least on that one, because the rhythm section was just amazing on this. And of course, when eventually after this they recorded Fool's Gold, which is basically Manny and Rennie's Beast. Just amazing. So yeah, so that's it. That's the track list. Wasn't a massive hit when it first came out. It didn't really set the world alight. I mean, it should have done, but it didn't. It's more of a slow burner. And basically, this album is probably why Britpop happened, to be honest. Liam Gallagher saw the Roses about this time, and that made him want to form a band. It's a template for British guitar pop in the 90s. Just everybody. And I still adore it to this day. I can put it on and I will be absolutely blown away by it. I do get blown away by it every time I put it on. Right, so there we go. 20 minutes wittering on about the Stone Roses debut album for Vinyl Victim. Hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And I'm going to go and play it again now. So I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. Cheers, VC. Ta-ra.